What's up, everybody? Welcome to Live Fridays with Toss and Spin Tennis. Listen, I'm super excited to welcome in my guy, Tennis with Gary. Gary is a former college tennis player, former ATP pro, and currently a high performance tennis coach. Join us as we discuss our picks on the French Open, as well as getting to know Gary. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and I'm going to welcome him in here in the next couple of minutes. Gary,
Hey,
how are you?
great, man. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Of course, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking your time to come on and talk some tennis with me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, no,
I've done my research.
oh, you done your research. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I'll dive right in, and even before we get into the French Open, just for all the people that are currently going to watch this and will watch this later, you sent me over your bio. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
All right, so I'm trying not to drag this out too long. So
Okay.
feel free to cut me short if I start rambling.
We'll do. We'll do.
Okay. So I grew up, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I grew up playing in the Northeast section. For those familiar with how USDA breaks up the sections, right? There's, I believe, 13, let's say there's 13 different sections, correct?
Yep.
We play, that we're all divided into, and I played in the Northeast and the Eastern section. And I did well sectionally, but never really got a chance to play too many national events. And played kind of lower level D1 tennis. I played for the United States Military Academy at West Point, which is a Patriot League team. And we won our conference with them, which I'm really pumped about. It's always good to have that conference championship ring, which is cool. And then finished my degree in economics over at St. John's University, which is also in New York. It's in Queens. And hey, Chris. Sorry. Shazino trying to chime in there. Thanks. And St. John's University is a part of the Big East Conference, and we won a conference title with them as well. So been fortunate enough to have some success at the college level. We never actually, with those teams, broke into the NCAA, like the meaningful portion, like beyond the quarters or anything like that. But we did get to experience, so we had to travel for that, so that was fun. And then I actually started coaching in college to fund my expenses. As a college kid, you don't really have too much. Not everybody gets a stipend or whatever it might be, or has the extra money to spend on things that college kids spend their money on, right? So I started working a little bit to try to make ends meet, and I realized that I really enjoyed it. I was really, really happy doing it. I had kind of fallen out of love with tennis when I went to university. I basically had achieved my goal of getting into a D1 program and getting a good education. And while I was in school, I kind of lost my passion around tennis, and the coaching actually brought it back a great deal. And I realized that I wanted to try and pursue it further, and not even necessarily for myself, but to see what it would actually take to get there. And so I decided to try to play professionally, and I played on the pro circuit for a few years, so that I could see what it would actually take to get a player from A to Z, right? The goal being to get to that pro level. And myself, I managed to get into the top 1,000, made a couple of finals runs, and but couldn't keep competing because of finances, and ended up stopping about 2 years ago now. And I still enjoy competing. I still love it. I'll play local men's opens and money events, and I recently played the New York Open. I didn't play the New York Open, sorry. I won a wild card into the New York Open. I wouldn't have directly gotten in, but I got a wild card into the New York Open, which is an ATP 250 event, which is almost as good as playing at the U.S. Open, some would say.
Right. Yeah.
Being from New York, which is incredibly cool. It was such an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And currently, I help tennis players, play. You're more than just a tennis player, right? You're a human being. You have a personality. You have wants and desires that will stretch beyond the parameters of a court, right? And so I'm really into creating complete athletes and complete people. And so that's what I do. Coach independently now, just renting courts in North New Jersey.
Yeah. And you said something. Well, you said a lot of good things there. But the New York Open, that's really cool. I mean, I was thinking about, as you think of Serena and other players, like for them, the end all be all, they have to win it. If they just get into the tournament, it's not good enough. And I was thinking, like, if I could just get a chance to play at that level, lose, win, get a couple points, like just the experience of having family and friends to see me, all that hard work pay off is amazing. And then as far as what you're doing from coaching, I mean, there needs to be more coaches like that, making the game fun and really teaching those life lessons. And for me, it's about, I teach tennis because tennis gave me a lot and I want to give back, what it has given me and share that joy that I've had. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I definitely agree with just being on the court at the New York Open is incredible.
Right.
Just having that experience. And then that other piece of, I think sometimes because we want our kids and our players that we work with, we want them to win. And I think sometimes we forget that even if it's our profession, it's not necessarily their profession, right? Like, the kids are so much more than just players, tennis players. They are, they're academics, they have personalities, they have social life. And you got to balance it all and learn how to, manage your time and prioritize and have values and all of these things. And I do believe that sport is a great way to learn that. And I really, really want to impose, or not impose. I'm missing the word, but basically bestow that type of kind of knowledge.
Yeah, instill that knowledge in your students.
Yes, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Instill. Thank you. Impose is not.
Yeah.
Instill. That's what I was hoping for. There you go.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And just transitioning over to the French Open, for me, I follow pro tennis quite often, and it's somewhat in tune that what's happening with the majors. But this year obviously it's going to be a weird one. It's super cold. It's coming after the U.S. Open for the first time ever, I believe. Yeah. As you think about men's and women's, who's your pick?
So this was very interesting because I didn't have to factor in that they're playing it in October, right?
Right.
And we look at, obviously you can't count out Rafa because 12-time champion, but it is a very different court that they're playing on because it's drier, it's colder, right? The ball isn't sitting up as much. It's kind of moving through the court. So as much as I really would love to see Rafa, come out on top, I don't think that on the men's side, I don't think anybody's stopping Djoko. I think it is going to be a stroll to the finals for him. He might have like a slight stumble against Kachanov or Medvedev, but Medvedev is 0-3 at the French. And Kachanov has beaten Djoko, but never on clay. So, those are his two kind of most formidable opponents going into the semis. And I don't think either of them will really hinder him too much. And then you have on the other side, you have obviously you have Rafa as the bottom half.
Yeah.
I really, I'd love to see Thiem make a deep run, but I just don't think that his body's going to be ready to do that level of grind after he just did that level of grind at the U.S. Open.
For sure. Yeah.
And he's got a really tough draw. He's got every match is going to be a contender. These guys are obviously coming for him because he just came off a major career high, and they want to kind of, whatever it is. People are headhunting when you start winning, right? People want want to beat you, and that's a great thing. Obviously, it's a privilege to be at that level, but I don't think that he's going to be able to break through that. Realistically, Schwartzman, obviously coming off of that ridiculous finals run, and then losing to Joko, he seems like he has the best shot coming into the semis.
Yeah.
But I'd also love to see some of these younger guys, and I know we were going to touch on that later, so maybe I'll hold off on that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My phone's telling me
No, it's all good. For sure. We'll touch on the younger guys later. The one thing I really like that you said, so Rafa, he's won 12 French Opens, going for 13. He's also going for the tie, to tie Federer at 20 overall majors, most ever. The one thing that Rafa came out and said today that I didn't really like, he essentially said that, to your point, the ball is playing a little faster. As you know, I worked for Wilson in the past, and I managed global tennis balls. So he's essentially saying that the ball's too heavy, it's going to move through the court too fast, and I can't win if the courts are going to play like this under these conditions. So, but it's funny to me because it's only one player that comes out and says that, right? It's not like anybody else is like, teams like, well, the ball's different. He's like, I just played Wilson and I won my first major. I don't care what the ball is, So I did find that interesting. I do think, Novak, he can be a head case, but who knows? I think he's playing the best tennis by far out of anybody right now. I personally think he's the only guy who can beat Rafa. And I shouldn't say the only guy because Schwartzman just beat him. And to your point, I think you're spot on with Team. I think he's going to go deep. He's just going to run out of gas at some point. Right. It could be in the round of 16. It all depends on how his first couple of matches are. But if his first couple of matches go long, then no chance to make a deep run. He's going to be burnt out, and he already has his major. I think he'll just pack it in and be like, we made the most of this year. So
yeah, agreed. I definitely agree with that. And that's funny that that Rafa was talking about the Wilson balls, because I am so curious. This year is the first year that they're doing it. It was a big switch over at Roland Garros, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays. Although, Rafa has had success, like at the Oz Open, those courts are fast. The Oz Open courts are, if I read this correctly recently, are faster than Wimbledon, right? Like in terms of how quickly the ball moves through the court. So he's had success on quicker courts. I think it's just probably not to his liking, what he's used to, what he would be most comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
I wanted to touch on the women's side, because I feel like everybody, whether you love Serena or not, I want to see her hit 24.
Absolutely.
I think it would be incredible. I really don't think that it's happening at the French.
Yeah.
I don't think she can stand a 2-week grind like that. Not to say that she's not fit and that she's not an absolute beast when it comes to playing, but I think as you get older, that I'm looking to play quicker points, even as I get older, and I can only imagine that her trying to sustain this high level, she's also trying to play quicker points. So grinding out some matches against some of these girls and ladies who where her pace isn't as impactful on this slightly slower surface like clay. I don't see her going, super deep. Quarters is doable, but I don't know if it'll even get that far.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you there, and I think one of her issues and where she'll struggle, she plays too many long matches. Like if you look at the if you look at all the tournaments she's played this year, since the restart, it's like she's playing all 3 sets. So at some point, and even if you look at the U.S. Open, it's like 3 set, and then she had to play back-to-back days where she played 3 sets. And I think at 38, now 39 years old, the stamina is a different grind. So her best chance to win the French is to keep matches short, keep points short. And if she can do that for the first 3 rounds, she has a shot. If she comes out and she plays, 3 sets in the first couple of rounds, yeah, I 100% agree. I also think, I like Azarenka. But who knows? I mean, it all depends. You know, the reason I really like women's tennis right now is because it's so up in the air.
Yeah.
Like, let's say Halep's going to win. Halep may lose first round. Like, it's just that type of. So then all of a sudden, it's like, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't have thought Jennifer Brady would have made the semis of the, the U.S. Open 6 months ago, right? But she was in the semis. So it's fun to watch women's tennis. It's really, I watch it with my wife, and you just literally, you don't know who's going to win. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned Halep because she's definitely my favorite. And Muguruza as a close second because they're both champions, and they I think one of the interesting things with Halep is that she's gotten blown out by hard-hitting players. In the past, even this past year, and it'll be really interesting to see how she copes with some of these younger girls who are coming in trying to bash that ball.
Absolutely.
Like you have I think Anisimova routined Halep at one point, right? It was like 1-0 or something like that. Not even that long ago, and because she hits a much bigger ball. So it'll be interesting. It's definitely like I love the same thing. I love that it's so open. It's one of the things. People come at tennis with two different ways. Like, the men's tennis has the top three, and everybody comes to watch them. And it's like, yeah, but as a tennis fanatic, I want somebody else to win. I don't want the same guys and gals winning every single event because it's boring. There's no like surprise dark horse or whatever it is. It's just like, let's not watch the event until week 2 when matches actually get interesting. I don't agree with that. I think that they could get interesting real early on the women's side, and so.
Absolutely. And I also agree. Someone mentioned that clay is by far her worst surface. I think she hasn't had much practice on it. Maybe a couple weeks she's been training with her coach. So I mean, I think we'll see. And you mentioned someone Halep lost 1-0, and this is a sidebar, but I got really frustrated about a week ago when I saw that Sophia Keating lost 0-0, and I just was like, no, that in my mind should never happen at a professional tennis. I mean, I guess to me it's the equivalent of the Lakers beating the Nuggets by 70 points.
Right.
It should never
happen.
And people were like, well, she was in the points. I'm like, no, if I go out there right now, I can hit 4 first serves and get 1 game, okay? That might be the only game I get. But I can pull it together, right? And I was like, literally, I was just like, for 2 days, this is what I talked about. I called my teammates. I called everybody. I was like, how someone tell me how this happened. I don't know.
Right. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. And, we see it occasionally. And it with a player like it's just so strange because it's happened with Sharapova multiple times, right? When she was even number 1 in the world, number 2 in the world, she would go out and get bageled, like double bageled by Serena. And you look at it and you're like, okay, I get that. Sharapova is a very one-dimensional player. I can see how it's very limiting. If you have an off day, you're done. But Keenan isn't, and so it's so strange for me to see that scoreline. I saw some of the match highlights and I was like, something's off. Maybe it was one of those like tour requirements where she already signed up and committed and then she didn't want to pull out last minute. Maybe it was something like that. And let's hope that that's the case as opposed to maybe anything else,
Yeah. And we're talking about Sophia Keating and Victoria Azarenka. She beat her last week, I think it was 6-0, 6-0, and Sophia Keating won the Australian Open. So it's it's still at least she has a major. But as we go on the back end, and we'll start to wrap this up. Who could make a dent on the men's and women's side as you think about the French? What players do you think could make some noise?
I'd really love to see Tsitsipas make a deep run. As well as Shapo, right? Shapovalov just breaking into the top 10, playing some of the best tennis I've ever seen from him. High level, man. Just big swing and really, really aggressive, smart tennis. Tsitsipas, I love his game. And he's had 2 massive Grand Slam hiccups, right? He had that Wawrinka match last year at the French where he basically spent the rest of the end of last year basically in the ditch. Like, he did not perform well at all after that. And
For sure.
just coming off of, the U.S. Open, having some match points and not being able to convert. It's tough, man. It's tough to see.
You know what? And I read one of these comments, and Shapo does have a rap career, and I was talking with Alex, I think this was 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about his rap track, Shapo's rap track, and I went on and I was like, okay, not only are you top 10, you can spit a few bars. I can get with you, okay? That's not bad. But no, to your point, I would love to see Shapo. I saw someone say Jack Sock, I'm rooting, I don't know if he'll make a run. Actually, I don't think he will. However, I just think he has so much potential to not do something with his career. Right. You know what I mean? I think I would love to see him do something. I also like FAA, Felix, Aliassi team. So I think he's the future of the game. To me, he's a young kid at heart, but he plays like a grown man. Like, he's not afraid to go against anybody, and you can just see that in his eyes. He's ready to play, win or lose. He has that mentality, who I think could, potentially carry the men's side of the game. Him and Dennis Shapovalov. I mean, I think a lot of guys can learn something by watching Shapo and how hard he fights as well.
I don't want to leave out, somebody just brought up Kyrgios. Kyrgios isn't playing, so that's not happening. But as much as I find him entertaining, it ain't happening this time. Somebody I really think is going to make, I hope is going to make a little rumble is Sinner. Yannick Sinner, him ball is, man, that is incredible level of tennis. He swings big, he hits big. It's really impressive to watch the way that he constructs points and how he fights, and pressure situations don't faze him. It's incredible, and I would really love to see him make at least a second week run, which would be fantastic. And then I think he's in Rafa's quarter, so I don't think he's getting past Rafa at the French, but they would love to see that. Did you have anybody else in mind that you were looking for?
No, I mean, those are, to me, the men's. I mean, you can almost fast forward to week 2, because I think the key headlines, Tsitsipas, Rafa, Novak, team. I mean, I think those guys are going to move on through, and I don't think there'll be too much, talk from the Americans early on the men's side. On the women's side, it's hard. I really pay attention to the American women, and honestly, the American women's tennis is in very good shape. The one thing I want to see, I don't know if Coco, she has a tough first round. I don't know if she can make a deep run, but if she can win her first round match, I think it'll get a little easier for her. At the end of the day, we still have to remember she's a 16-year-old girl who's probably in the 11th grade. So, it's funny, we talk about her as though she's like 32 years old, had 1 knee surgery, won 12 majors. So I just, like, when I hear commentators talk about, like, Coco didn't play good today. Of course she didn't. She's 16 years old. How did you play at 16 years old, right? Another one, sleeper. So a buddy of mine, he coaches Eddie Elliott. He coaches Lauren Davis. And I actually think her game is well suited for clay. And I know she's, struggled a little bit coming back. But I was looking at her draw, and I think she could make some noise too. And to me, that's why the women's is going to be fun, because literally you're going to look up and it's like there's 12 upsets on the first day. And then the draw gets open and you have no idea who's going to win. And to that point, I think that's why the U.S. Open from the men's side was fun, even though people were like, well, Sasha is pushing and team is, but I mean, it made it so much fun to watch, because I was like, oh my God, I don't know who's going to win. This is so exciting. Rather than seeing another Djokovic or Nadal or even Medvedev, I think those guys made it exciting, and it humanized them, right? They were nervous, they were tight, they wanted it so bad, and you're so close for what you train for your whole life. So also someone said Muguruza. She's always a wild card in my opinion, because honestly, obviously she's won a major. I think so. Yeah, she's won a major, but I don't know. She's up and down though, right? Like, I don't know if she's going to lose first round or if she's going to win the tournament. And then Sloane Stephens Same thing. I mean, she may lose 1-1,
Yeah.
or she may get to the quarterfinals. Like you don't know. It's like, what type of day are they having?
Right.
How's bubble life been? You know, so.
I also, you can't forget Madison Keys having made the semis last year. You know, incredible. You know, she does well on the surface. It's really, somebody asked earlier about, you know, the U.S. men. You know, Sock's not getting anywhere. He's just not fit enough to play 3 out of 5 sets multiple days in a row. Like you watch him, he's got a beer gut. You know, like he can be a dub specialist with a beer gut. You're not contending against top 20 players with a beer gut. So
that's real.
That's real talk. You know? You can be a little chubs in dubs because you cover in half a court, so you're fine. And he's got ridiculous hands, and he's got the resume to back up his dubs as well. But on the women's side, definitely Madison Keys, I think, is going to be really interesting to watch. Anisimova, same thing. You know, she hasn't done well the last couple of weeks, but I think that there's, you know, it's like you said, it might come down to the day, like just a little something, you know, their coach or their friend or whatever is like, hey, you got this, and they walk out and they win it. You know, it could be something as simple as that. And I think it'll be really, really interesting to see how the second half of the first week plays out, right? Like the first rounds, you got a couple of weird ones, like Murray Wawrinka first round match. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you have later on, you know, like Isner isn't known for making the second week, you know, on the men's side. And then you have I think the younger girls on the women's side are going to make a bigger splash than the men than the young men on the men's side, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think Isner, it's hit or miss. I mean, he has a big serve, but he may lose to the ball boy, or he may, you know, win a couple rounds. And it's just Clay it's kind of like some guys. And actually, I think of James Blake from back in the day. James Blake would show up to French Open and just like, nah, it's not happening. I mean, whoever was playing, he was going to lose first round, and he was headed to London. You know what I mean? So I don't have much faith there. Another interesting thing that I thought about, it is good to see some fans back, and I saw, you know, there were going to be 5,000 fans on the ground. Now it's 1,000. But even like just having some fans to clap, it's just like, it took tennis from being like, okay, to now I'm like, oh, this is cool. There's actually fans they're watching. Yeah, because it was so interesting to see the Open. I had a couple of buddies who were, you know, hitting partners at the Open with some players, and they were like, it's eerie, you know, like Ash is massive, right? And you have just this echo of, you know, like one slap and then another slap, and you could hear the players going, shit, you know. And so I think that's going to be so interesting to see with the French, with them having at least some fans, because, you know, the immediate bubble, right? That is the players and their teams. They watch matches very differently than an avid fan, right? Like there's no filter with an avid fan. You know, like the team is going to be like golf clap. You know, the avid fan's going to be, you know, going nuts. You know, clapping for shanks and winners and all of that. So I think it'll definitely impact some of the tighter matches, which will be really cool, because I think that's what we love to see, that show that, like you said, at the Open, like the mental battle that is playing at that level. You know, you get tight, you get nervous because everybody wants it so bad. I think it'll be an interesting event for sure. 100%. And I'll leave us with this last question, because I do think it's interesting. If you could see two favorite players play mixed at the French Open, who are you putting together to make the ultimate team? Who's your pick?
Oh man, Novak and Serena.
Okay. I'm actually, if this could happen, I would go Coco and Nick Kyrgios.
Oh hell yeah!
I think they would mess some things up. It'd be a lot of fun to watch. And I mean, you know, people talk, you know, somewhat badly about Nick. I actually really think he's good for the game, and to be honest, he has a ton of potential. So, I mean, obviously he's sitting out, Ashley Barty's sitting out. But I mean, if you read the news on Australia, it's like very, very difficult to get in and out the country. So to be honest, it's probably not them figuring out how to get out and then figuring out how to get back into the country. It's just like, let's just stay here. So hopefully they'll be safe and we'll be able to see some good tennis down under when that time comes in a couple months.
Yeah, hopefully they end up actually hosting the event. That'll be a really cool, for sure. It'll be an interesting swing of tournaments. So I'm excited to see the French. I'm also hoping that everybody manages to stay safe throughout the world and leading up so that we can have the Aussie Open. I've got my own agenda. I want to see the Aussie Open, and I hope that everybody is staying safe as well. So
absolutely. Well, honestly, this has been great. I've enjoyed, not only of course getting to know you, but also your thoughts on the French Open. Before we go, just tell where can everybody follow you? What's your handles, your hashtags? How can we keep up with you?
Thank you so much for having me on. If anybody's interested in following me, it's just simply Tennis with Gary. Right now on Instagram primarily and YouTube. I'm trying to grow that channel as well. So if you can hop over, follow, subscribe. Appreciate all the support. And I'm doing a big giveaway right now for a 10K because I reached that milestone. I'm really excited about it. So if you haven't signed up for it, make sure you hop on over and check that out.
And it's an amazing giveaway. I know I tagged some of my buddies. I think I need to share it in my story to officially sign up. But we'll get there. I'll do it after this. But again, thanks for the time. This was great. Another great episode of Live Friday, and we'll be chatting in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.